Alrighty. Welcome back to another live stream of Grumpy Grizzlers Building Chimera. I am yours truly, Grumpy Grizz, also known as Jonathan, also known as John Lee. And welcome to the stream, everybody. Come on in. So, if you're new to the stream and everything, basically Building Chimera is sort of my personal project of creating my own video game studio. I'm currently a student at Full Sail University for the Game Development Program in Computer Science. I have begun studying, and I am trying real hard to get all this figured out. So, Chimera is the gaming studio that I would like to build in the future. It is my current big project. I don't expect myself to build it in the maybe in the next 10 years. We'll see. But for right now, it's not the huge plan. But this channel is just for me to discuss future game development ideas and storylines and other games, other game developers. This is kind of the gist of it, kind of my passion right here. It's gaming. Gaming of all sorts, video game mostly. My main reason for making the YouTube channel is because I want to hear from you guys. Whenever I get into the game development world and that business and everything, I want to be able to have a direct connection with my players, my consumers, my audience. Basically, you guys are going to be the ones running the show. I'm just putting out stuff that you guys might like. And a lot of big companies have forgotten that players are the real market, that you guys are the reason that they have a job. And so I want to never sever this connection between you guys and me. Because I'm a gamer. I'm upset with the way that some gaming companies are doing things. But overall, I want to make sure that my company does what you guys want. My overall goal is to create a company that is reverent to God. I want to make a biblically based game development company. I'm not saying a game that makes games. I'm not saying, sorry, a company that makes games about the Bible, but rather from a biblical viewpoint. There is a difference. I think there can be some high quality, good games out there that are biblically based, but not boring. I think that they could be done better. That's exactly what we're here for. The game that I plan on producing in the hopefully near future is for right now, the title is Rachel and Oatmeal. I'm gonna have to think of some other names. Originally it was called Rachel's Defense, and then it was called Good Night, but I found out that that name for a video game has already been taken. Basically, this is the summary, the gist of the game. So you play as a teddy bear, and you are fighting off the nightmares that the kid is having. Right now, I've just got a rough draft of the storyline and how it's going to work and everything. I plan on toning it down a little bit. I've noticed that I've kind of gone off topic a little bit. The kid grew up faster than I was expecting in the story that I wrote. And so I'm going to go back in the near future and fix the storyline a little bit. Put it back towards the kids being kids for most of their life. And the last two levels are them grown up and growing up. So originally the game was just going to be about one teddy bear named Rachel defending one little girl from nightmares. That was going to be the whole game. But it's really evolved quite a bit. And it has become a two-player game and multiple endings kind of a game. And so we're going to go over one of the endings, which is all good choices. There will be some bad choices and some evil choices, which that all entails in the sense that, do you succeed in your fight? If you win, that's cool. If you miss one level, it's not as good. If you mess up two levels, that's when things get bad. If you mess up and lose every level, that's the evil decision. And so for now, though, we're going to go over the good decisions and see its outcome and some game mechanics and things like that. But first, there's something I want to introduce to you guys. My wife, you guys may know her as Perky Panda, has created her own crochet business. And I got to tell you guys, it is fantastic. It is really good quality stuff. In fact, let me get back over here. I don't know if you can see it, but the patch on my beanie, she made it herself. It kind of looks weird in this light and this angle, but if you know, you know. It's a ARF clone trooper. She made the patch and then she sewed it on to my beanie. So she's good at making stuff. She does personal orders. She does custom orders. This is a set of some of the other things that she has created. So this is her account. You guys go give her a follow. If y'all private mess or direct message her, she'll get back to you about orders and figure all that out with you. Here's some of the other things that she's been creating. And I'm telling you guys, it's good quality. She's made mushroom bags, a strawberry bag. She actually turned the strawberry bag into a planter for another person who wanted to buy from her. And she can make a lot of different animals in that pill shape. And she's even learned how to do a candy corn. And she's planning on moving on towards making pumpkins because it is that season. And she's started making shawls. And it's amazing, you guys. She's even made some dog toys for our dog. That butterfly was just a cute little butterfly, but she eventually gave it to our dog, Bentley. Bentley loves it. He can't tear it up because she's made it too well. It's fantastic. It's really good. And so if you guys are interested in getting any imagery like that, any sort of creation or anything like that from her, go to her Instagram account. She's also on Facebook, and just direct message her, and she'll get in contact with you about pricing and what you want. She's very flexible. She's very skilled in what she's making. Very good quality stuff. So go check her out, guys. Perky Panda's been working really hard. She's doing a fantastic job. Love you, my dearest. So, back to me. I'm just kidding. So, the game itself, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be strange. It originally was just going to be about a bear fighting nightmares for a kid, right? It has escalated to be so much more than that. And it has become a metaphor for the armor of God, the seven deadly sins, and it has suddenly become very psychologically based. And I'm not claiming to be an expert in any of those things, but I know that I do love all of these things. And I know that this project alone has pushed me to research more about the Bible. And we will probably actually spend a stream at some point doing a Bible study over these topics, over the armor of God, over the seven deadly sins. Are they biblical? Are they kind of an add-on? You know, we'll go over stuff like that in the near future. So, anyways, we are going to go ahead and get ready for that. And I've got some big news too about this game, actually. But I will do that at our halfway point. So stick around to hear the big news. Love to see you guys here. So, sorry. I am doing this all by myself. So, okay. So, how this is all going down. Need to adjust the time. You guys have already seen all this part. If you're wondering what this is in the background, I'm currently building my own game mode in Fortnite Creative, and it's actually almost done. I will publish it and then post it on Instagram if you guys would like to see more about it. And, I won't wear it for the whole stream, but it's come to my attention that I have not been wearing the hat that is on the Grumpy Grizz emblem. And so, here you go, fans. There you go. So this is the hat that actually the emblem, the Grumpy Grizz emblem, is wearing. You can see that at the top left corner of the screen. And well, let me see. Actually, you guys might not be seeing everything I'm seeing. Okay, you are. Good. Just want to make sure. So this is that hat. Grumpy Grizz is not just wearing the emblem. Grumpy Grizz is not just wearing a hat because I like hats. It's wearing a hat because I wore this hat for the longest time. Uh, Probably about 6 or 7 years, and I loved this hat. It is actually used to be my brother's, and then I found it in the closet. Asked him if I could have it, and he said yeah. So shout out to the Joe 90, his old gamer tag. So, anyways, that's this hat. I'll probably start wearing it for more gaming streams and stuff like that. Without further ado, Rachel's Defense, or also maybe Good Night, or also, you know, enter game name here. Working on the name right now. Game name is pending. So, the way it's going to work is that the different opponents that you technically have 8 different opponents in this game. The 8 different opponents are based on the 7 deadly sins, which are greed, wrath, lust, envy, gluttony, sloth. And I know I said 8, but that's because the 8th one is the final boss. He's kind of the encumbrance of them all. Not encumbrance. I feel like it's the wrong word. He's the accumulation of all of the sins, and they all equal into one big thing that the person is going to struggle with. So, little background. Rachel is the name of one of the teddy bears. Rachel actually used to be my sister's teddy bear that she had all the time. She loved that teddy bear. And Oatmeal is the name of my old teddy bear that I used to love. I think I still have him somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I gave him to my nephews. But teddy bear, yeah. Oatmeal and Rachel, they're kind of actually personal to us, which is funny. So the way the game's going to start off is that level 1 is the training level, of course. And you choose, do you want to play as Oatmeal or as Rachel? Basically, guy teddy bear or girl teddy bear. So, and then do you want to protect the girl or the boy? And in the game, the girl and the boy are going to have 2 separate storylines, but they would struggle with their own things. And depending on which one you go to protect first, will determine how the teddy bear excels in gameplay, in his passive abilities. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So, in the beginning, you play as a teddy bear who's actually an angel, and God has you be placed in a teddy bear, which is the kid's teddy bear, and you protect the kid. Well, the first night, you're going to learn game mechanics, how to fight, your abilities, stuff like that. And there's not really any sins that show up just yet. It's the first monsters are going to be more like spiders. Um, it's not really a sin particularly. It's just sin. Because despite what people think, nobody is born innocent. Nobody is born perfect. We're all born sinful. And so, I don't know, it's kind of just out of nowhere. But, anyways, if you choose, it doesn't matter which angel you choose. It kind of just gives you the option: do you want to play a guy or a girl? I focus on immersion a lot, and so choosing a girl for me, I don't connect to that game very well as much as I do choosing a guy. I don't feel like that's as sexist as people say it is. I feel like, we all have preferences. There's nothing wrong with that. Not to say there's anything wrong with female protagonists. Lara Croft, Samus, there's some fantastic ones out there. I just don't relate to them if I'm looking for immersion. So I'm adding a guy and a girl angel. I know we're teddy bears. You can't really relate to teddy bears as immersion, but it's all good. It doesn't matter either way. So you choose which of the kids you want, which changes the storyline. So the girl's biggest issues. Let me zoom in on my notes. So, the girl's biggest issues is lust and envy. Those are the two kind of like personal sins that she has, that she struggles with. And she's a sweet girl that's quiet, but she struggles with body image and motivation and self worth. She will grow up to be a good wife, but she tends to struggle with something later on. The boy, I don't have a name for these kids yet, by the way. So if you guys have ideas, I'd love to hear them. I want you guys to have a hand in almost everything I do, everything I make. The boy's biggest issues is wrath and pride. A nice, hard-working boy that struggles with pride, even in the good things. He'll grow up to be a businessman and struggle with an intense dilemma regarding his friend. So, I have it so that these people also have advocates. It's not just like devil's advocate only, you're an angel fighting off Satan. Granted, there is some of that in a way. Um, but also the girl, she has her dad and later on her husband that are kind of her champions, people she can always go to and rely on. And her dad's gonna be very biblical, her husband's not. And so they'll be really close together, but there's some spiritual conflict there. And then the boy, um, he has his mom and his best friend. His dad passed away, and so oh no, sorry, his dad left, and so he's already got underlying anger there. And so, as you play through the game, we will now proceed on to storyline and gameplay on good choices, good outcomes. So if you choose all good outcomes, this is what happens. Basically, it's not so much a choice; it's do you succeed? So many enemies will hit the kid, and then, or sorry, so many enemies will enter the kid's nightmares or mindscape, and if you destroy all the, uh, if you destroy all the monsters, all the nightmares, all the seven deadly sins, then you had a good night. It was a good outcome. The kid makes a good choice that night. But if you fail with within the time limit, if you fail it, then the kid chooses the wrong option. And so there's some major consequence in this. If you fail the game, then there's some big consequences. If you fail once, that's not a huge deal. If you fail twice, it's not a huge deal. If you fail 3 times, that creates a bad outcome, and the last level will be really hard for you to fight. The enemies will be ramped up and stuff like that. But if you failed every level leading up to this one, you stand little to no chance at the end, at the last level. So there is some challenge that comes with this game mode. It's not just storyline. So um, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys this trigger warning. This storyline does contain some sensitive content such as depression and self-exiting. If you use context clues, you can figure out what self-exiting means. If you don't feel comfortable, don't worry about it. Hit the notification bell, and I'll catch you later, okay? If this isn't comfortable with you, go ahead and head out. I'll give you a few minutes, okay? Don't worry about it. For those of you hanging around still, just kind of a reminder, if you guys want to go to my coffee account and if you want to support me there, it's support us at KOFI, that's coffee.com/grumpygrizz. Currently, this is the next project that we're trying to get. We're trying to get some better lighting for the streams. And if all goes well, then I'll be able to have better quality video for you guys. We've already achieved the first check mark, and I should be able to get that camera next week. Thanks to Rakua, she donated for the entire thing. We are getting a new camera soon. I am very excited about that. That's going to be awesome. So, back to this. All right. Golly. I have to reset this every time. We will put it at about, I think we were here? I don't know. I'll have more video for you guys later. I'm getting really close to finishing the game. So, anyways, with that being said and that warning, let's get into it. So, level 1, you were given to the child as a toy, but God places an angel in the teddy bear to protect the child. Rachel is actually the angel Shalom. And these are not legit angels. It's a biblical fiction. Don't get mad at me. Just relax. So, the angel that God puts in Rachel is the angel called Shalom. If you don't know Shalom, it is the Hebrew word for peace, I believe. I believe it's peace. And then an Oatmeal, the little teddy bear Oatmeal, he is imbued with the angel Rapha. And I feel awful. I believe Rapha means protect? I could be wrong. Let me look it up real quick. No, not Raphael Warnock. I don't even know who that is. Do I? Oh, he's a pastor. That's ironic. Well, I feel awful. I had this all written down and everything. I can't remember all of a sudden. The God who heals. Sorry. So, heals is Rapha. I don't know why that took me so long. I am so sorry, guys. Um. Okay, so God imbues the angel Rapha into the teddy bear Oatmeal. The teddy bears don't change the story, but the two characters do. So it's kind of like a double campaign. You can choose what happens. Think about adding a third kid, and it's much harder. Like the difficulty is a lot higher for him, but we are going to make it. We're going to kind of put a light in the darkness sort of thing, and make it about somebody who is a false Christian, somebody who, you know, they grew up in comfort. Both their parents were there. Both their parents are, you know, like his dad's a deacon in the church or something, and just kind of a holier than thou. It is harder for the rich man to enter the kingdom of God than the camel to enter. Sorry. It is harder for the rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven with all of his riches than for a camel to enter the eye of the needle. Golly, sorry about that. I did mention I'm in college right now, right? Okay. So, in the tutorial, while the baby is sleeping, the teddy bear jumps out of the crib and they hear something. And it's going to be a few spiders that like run into the room. And he's going to grab a little wooden like mallet for like the peg toys. And that's going to be his weapon for a little bit. And that will teach you the game mechanics and kind of how everything's going to go. So then that's chapter 1. That's infancy. And then chapter 2, you're with the kid and they're in 3rd grade now. The kid keeps a journal as a school project and probably hears the gospel for the first time around that timeline. The boy, he more just draws in the journal mainly, but his imagery is still portraying what's happening in real life. This is still how he journals, basically. And so he keeps a journal, but he draws. Whenever the angel goes to look at the journal to see how his day went, he sees that in his journal there's a drawing of a bigger kid taking an army man from him and then breaking it. The kid feels anger or wrath, if you want to go by the 7 deadly sins kind of standard. Oof. There we go. Sorry, I had to adjust something real quick. So, yeah, the kid feels anger or wrath, And so that night, um, the angel has to fight a red large monster that deals a lot of damage. But because he's a kid, the monster's details are going to be very limited. And so the monster is going to look like it's been drawn through crayons. And so it'll be a big red, kind of goofy looking monster. And that'll be the monster that the angel has to fight for the boy. If you chose the girl, she writes quite a bit in her diary. She writes a lot more than the boy will in his diary. And so she writes about how a friend of hers got the newest doll dream house that she's been asking for months, thus feeling envy. Um, and that night, an angel has to fight envy. Envy, and the monster envy will look like a tall and slim orange monster that moves slowly. But his thing is kind of ability, you could say, is that if you stand too close to him for too long, he can disarm you and knock your weapon out of your hand. Because that's envy overall. And wrath, um, the monster wrath. Whenever you fight him, his thing is he deals increased damage, but his armor is low. He's easy to beat, but he can deal a lot of damage really fast. And at the end of this game, at the end of this chapter, chapter 2, you get a bow and arrow, which introduces new game mechanics. And I've written down the weapon capabilities, and we'll go over that once we get done with the chapters. And so, good outcome. If you beat all the monsters that night, the kid has pleasant dreams. He doesn't have nightmares. He doesn't have that temptation. If you beat all the monsters for the boy, the outcome is he forgives the big kid, even though the big kid didn't ask for forgiveness. Oh, kind of a Sunday school answer. But it's nice. It's still accurate. For the girl, she goes and talks to her daddy about how she's feeling, and he helps her see that it's not what we have, but it's who we have, thus eradicating envy. Moves us on to chapter 3. They're now teenagers. And again, I said that at one point it feels like they might be growing up a little too fast. So I'm thinking about taking out chapter 5, which we'll go over that in a minute, and putting it in here, moving chapter 5 to being a younger kid. So before teens, or maybe after teens, and he's like about to graduate high school or something, you know? So it's not going to be kind of like that. Hey, what's up, Rakua? Good to see you. We're kind of in the middle of talking about Rachel and Oatmeal, or the original game title was going to be Rachel's Defense, but we have changed it because now there are 2 protagonists instead of 1. So this game has the option of single or 2-player. And so right now we're discussing about the different chapters of the game. Each of the chapters are going to equal a level, and you unlock different weapons and abilities at the end of each level. And so right now we just finished chapter 3, we finished chapter 2, and now the teddy bear gets a bow and arrow. On to chapter 3. The boy meets a girl, and he thinks that she is the love of his life. And one day he finally goes to muster up the courage to ask her out, but she turns him down in front of her friends. Big sad. Really hurts his pride. And that night, the angel has to fight the monster Pride, the nightmare that is Pride. Pride will be described as a tall yet unbalanced purple monster that looks intimidating but is not. It has a long reach and does light damage, but it looks a lot more intimidating than it is. And that's kind of my illustration, you could say, of humility. That we are not as great as we think we are. Because pride tells us, and tells us to tell the world, how great we are, how cool we are. That is what pride is. Oh. Sorry. background. I kind of have a janky setup, so if the background turns off, I apologize for that. But anyways, pride tells us that we are greater than we are, that we are greater than most people, and that's just how the world is. We always tell ourselves, usually subconsciously, we tell ourselves, we're probably right. That makes sense to me. That's because your mind is your own echo chamber. And so pride, in description of what the monster is going to look like, is going to be very tall, and he's going to be off center, basically unbalanced, I should say. He's got a very large head, and he struggles with walking. So his walking animation is going to be kind of staggered, but he has a long reach, and he will be able to hit you a lot more than you can hit him in time. And so the way that the boy fights, if you win the match, if you win the game, that level, the good outcome is that the boy tells a friend about it, and his friend helps him get over the breakup. And so then that friend becomes a best friend, and we see this storyline between him and his friend continue on later. So then, if you chose the girls for chapter 3, the girl storyline is she starts getting insecure and falls to gluttony. And I'm comparing gluttony with depression as well, because a lot of the time, whenever we stress eat or people say we eat our feelings, um, that's kind of just not being able to. I'm not going to say not being able to. Struggle to or not want to deal with certain emotions, or not know how to deal with certain emotions, and that's okay. I mean, there's in all honesty, there's nothing wrong with going to therapy. Nobody tells you how to deal with your emotions because nobody knows you. You don't know what your emotions are. But I mean, in all honesty, therapist is a great way to guide you through your emotions. Because God still created us with emotions. We can't hide that. We can't fight the fact that we have emotions. I mean, a lot of guys struggle with crying in public. They think it's not manly. Well, even Jesus wept, guys. Don't worry about it. It's okay to feel the emotions, just don't let it drive you. There's a difference between those two. So the girl will start to have body issues. She starts getting struggling with overeating and even gaining weight, and that becomes her struggle. So then comes in the seven deadly sin itself, gluttony. And sorry, I thought I heard something in the hallway. So gluttony, I'm comparing it, not comparing it, pairing it with depression. And so the monster that you go up against will be fast, and it will be anxious. It can't focus. It's kind of going from one side of the room to the other and just striking at you when it comes near you. Um, Gluttony, I feel like, can also be paired with anxiety, because whenever we're nervous or anxious, we want something to feel good about or feel comfortable with. And so, and so I really feel like anxiety and gluttony connect really badly together. Um, let's see here. I have the seven deadly sins written down here. And so gluttony is the dictionary description is excessive eating and drinking. And I feel like a big reason that I myself am a rather large individual is because of my anxiety. And I'm not saying I'm a very anxious person, but I feel like I can hide. I feel I'm about to get real here with you guys. Get ready for this. I feel like looking back on life, I have gained a lot of weight because I was anxious, but never outwardly expressed it well. And so, I mean, I could be wrong. Could just be that I like food too much, but I do feel like my underlying anxiety is tied in with gluttony in a way. And I do struggle with gluttony. That is one of the seven deadly sins that I struggle with. And so I kind of relate to her on this level in the sense that she starts getting insecure and falls to gluttony and depression. And so Um, the good outcome of that is, where did I put it? She finds Bible passages that help her fight this feeling and this inaccurate self image of herself. But for the rest of the game, that's something that she struggles with. And you'll see that. Because she's not going to be a slim, like cheerleading girl, or she's gonna be a full size girl. There's nothing wrong with that. And so at the end of this game, at the end of chapter 3, the angel now has your teddy bear now has the option to have a spear as his weapon. And we'll go over the weapons mechanics once we get done with the storyline here. And so, moving to chapter 4, they are now college age. And this is what I'm saying, is I feel like I need to add a chapter earlier where it's between the teenager and college age, and I take out chapter 5 or make chapter 5 chapter 6. We'll see. We'll see. So, chapter 4, college age. Um, the boy is going to be struggling with his schoolwork. He'll be too focused on his athletic career that he realizes that he's really falling behind in his schoolwork. And he gets scared about that. He's afraid he's going to get kicked out. But rather than working harder for the academic side, because it's hard, school work is hard for him, he focuses on his athletic side, hoping that that will carry him through. So this is where the seven deadly sin, sloth, comes into play. He chooses to slack off in one area and work hard in another, rather than choosing to work hard in both areas. And that night, the angel has to fight off a large and slow monster that more rolls onto the battlefield, not so much runs or takes swings at anybody. He kind of just rolls and deals damage as he rolls into his enemies. But his big thing is that he's going to have a lot of health because he's just a gelatinous blob. That's what sloth is going to be. The good outcome for the boy, though, is if you win the mission, if you win the mission, then the boy goes and seeks his friend, his best friend that we saw on the previous level, who's smarter than him, and he kind of tutors him through his classes. So he chooses the opposite of sloth, which is to work hard in both areas, rather than to slack in one and not the other. And so for chapter 4, if you chose the girl becomes a little bit greedy because a cocky classmate has a new laptop and she's just boasting about it. She's like, oh, this is making my classes so much easier. And she's kind of that classmate who, like, you make a comment in class about something and you feel like it's well informed, and then this is that girl who's like, well, actually, according to da 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 da. Yeah, it's that kind of person. And so she feels great about the new laptop because she has to run everything on her phone and a computer that is at the school library. And so that night, the angel has to fight a monster that is greed. It is small, it is green, and he kind of just wanders. But as soon as he sees your character, he'll launch towards you and he explodes, effectively killing himself and your character. And that's kind of what greed is, the representation. It's the whole drinking poison and hoping the other person dies metaphor. That's what the seven deadly sin, greed, will be in this game. It's literally a character that explodes when he gets near your character. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. Um, her good outcome, though, is that if you succeed the night and you beat the monsters in time, she calls her dad and he helps her by putting some money towards a new laptop for her. Not necessarily a new laptop, but new to her, you know? a good used laptop, you could say. And so then we move to chapter 5, which is graduated, and they're kind of in their up and coming years and career wise stuff. So for the boy, um, his boss lets him know that he and his best friend, who they're now working at the same business, he and his best friend is, yeah, yeah, Rakua. Greed is basically just going to be a goblin that explodes when he gets too close to you. So for the boys' storyline, what's going to happen is that um, the boy and his best friend are now working at the same business, and they both applied and they both got the job. They've worked there for a while, but now there's a promotion in place, but there's only one spot. And so the boss tells the boy, "Hey, your friend is out sick for today. Whenever you see him next, just let him know, da 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 da, that there's a promotion position open and that both of y'all need to be in for a interview. I tried reaching him through his phone and his email, and he's not responding. And I heard that you were a roommate with him." So that's where it'll be. And so the boy now has a dilemma. He's going to struggle to tell his friend that there is an interview for this position. And so that night, he goes up against the Nightmare Greed. So that little goblin that explodes, now the boy has to fight him. Or the boy storyline, that's when you encounter Greed. So there's moments whenever the girl encounters some emotions before the boy will. And the boy will encounter some sins before the girl will. And sometimes they're not going to feel the same emotions at all. Like, I don't think I have a point in here where the girl never feels sloth, but the boy feels sloth. And so there are two different storylines that diverge into different areas. But overall, it's still the story of humans. And so some of us can relate to this no matter. So let me see. Where are we on time? I think we're good so far. Just double checking everything. Okay. Yeah, we're good on time. Okay. So, um, the good outcome is you fight that night and notice that there's no more monsters. I mean, no more new weapons. I forgot to mention that back in chapter 4, the last chapter, that, sorry, that in chapter 4, you, at the end of that one, you get a chain weapon called the Meteor Hammer. If you've never heard of it, it's a really cool weapon. And again, we'll go over weapon details and mechanics once we get done talking about the storyline. So, chapter 5, that's the whole thing with the boy and his friend and the job. And then the girl, she has a boyfriend now, and things are getting serious. But someone tells her, "Hey, I think your boyfriend is cheating on you." And that's when she starts to feel the sin, wrath, or anger. Um, that night, you finally go up against the nightmare wrath that we talked about earlier in chapter 2, I believe. The boy encounters wrath in chapter 2, so very early. And the girl encounters wrath here, chapter 5, so very late into the game. If you weren't here for earlier, the nightmare wrath will look like a large, muscular, red monster. And he can deal a lot of damage really fast, but he has low health. He burns out pretty quick. Some people, for most people, anger can burn out really quickly, but it can still deal a lot of damage in a short amount of time. And so that's what it is here. The good outcome is that she goes to church and she just kind of breathes through it without doing anything too irrational, I should say. No, do anything too rash. I'm just gonna stop there. She actually gets saved that night, and that plays a big role into her storyline. And later that night, he comes to her door crying, and he found out that somebody said that, but in reality, He never did. He never cheated on her. And so somebody lied to her, and so she felt anger towards her boyfriend, but it should actually have been pointed towards this person that lied to her. So notice there's no weapons that get changed or get added to this storyline. After chapter 4, there's no more new weapons. What you can choose what weapons you want to have after that, so you can kind of get acclimated on these last 3 levels. And so chapter 6, or level 6, however you want to say, they are adults now. And so the boy, he and his friend are now co-owners of the business. They have risen the ranks fast. They're co-owners of the business. They work together, and their secretary is his friend's wife, who has also joined the company, and she is beautiful. That is the boy's sin in this chapter, lust. And so then that night he goes to sleep, and the angel has to fight lust. I've not written a design for lust yet. I'm going to get real here for a minute again. So lust is kind of a sin that I've struggled with for a long time too. And not in the literal sense, but in the sense of pornography. I feel like excuse me. I feel like a lot of guys struggle with this, but it's still a part of my testimony, and I'm still angry about it, but by the grace of God, he's helping me fight it. And I can say that I've been clean from it for a while now. And so I'm going to put a lot of thought into the design of this monster. So we'll see what happens. It's all good, Rakua. Right now I have not decided whether or not they're brother or sister. I was kind of just planning on them being completely separate people that have no, you know, correlation with each other. I've thought about either having there be a cameo and they actually run into each other in one of the levels, but overall, I have not really planned on them knowing each other in general. Just 2 completely different storylines. And so, if you win that fight for the boy, and you defeat the monsters on time, the good outcome is that he tells his friend what he's struggling with, and that he's struggling with her working with them, and that he thinks that he needs to head out. That it's not worth ruining his career or his friendship, and so he's going to go somewhere else to work. But it all kind of works out pretty well for him, and the wife decides to work elsewhere instead. It's not so much like that this triggered her to leave, it's rather she was ready to leave anyways, and this is somewhat of a divine timing, divine intervention, you could say. Yeah. Thank you, Rakua. Yeah. It's tough. But I mean, this is partially why I want to make this game too. I feel like it could be a great avenue for people to be able to open up these conversations with people. And at the end of the game, I really want to add a I want to add a link of some kind to like different psychologists for the sake of knowing that they're not alone. I want to add biblical psychologists so that at the end of this game, so that there can be a way for them to be able to get out. I don't want this game just to be an awakening. I want this to be a way to get away, you know? I want this game to have an ending that impacts the character, the gameplay, and the player. So that's what the big goal is for this game. And so that's the boys' storyline for chapter 6. For the girl, she has an argument with her husband. Her boyfriend and her husband are now, her boyfriend is now her husband, and they are having some struggles. They're struggling in their marriage. The girl has an argument with the husband, and he asks her to do something before he goes for work. And because they argued so bad about it, she chooses that she's going to teach him a lesson, and she won't do the chore that he asked her to do. Somewhat based in stubbornness, you know? So this comes down to the sin pride overall. And so now she struggles with it, and that night the angel has to fight the monster pride for her. So the boy has already encountered pride. This is her first time encountering pride because she's with someone she's safe with. She thinks that she is worth more than she was before. And you know, the whole words is hard. Got to articulate this right. Pride can be a good thing whenever you're taking pride in an action, a good action, I should say, and in who you are, if it's a good thing. But pride can also be, this is where I have to articulate this well. Pride can be the thing that really screws things up because we think that we are more important than that thing or better than that action, that we are above this scenario in some form or fashion. So if you have an argument with somebody and that somebody is your, say, your parents or your boss, you get mad and you think to yourself, no, I don't have to do that because I don't owe them anything, you know? Da 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 da. I don't owe them such and such. And that's what pride does, is it makes it as if our wants and goals and our even just personality is greater than our respect and our need for respecting that person. So God makes it very clear, honor your father and mother. Do as they say. And if you decide that I don't want to do that thing, I don't like the way he said that to me, that's not a decision. It's not a conversation. And so pride can get in the way of us acting as servants, especially whenever we need to be a servant. And so this is what the girl is really struggling with now. And so the good outcome is if you beat the monsters on time, get through it all, she goes ahead and does the chore. She does the work and then some. And then her husband comes home and they talk about it and they apologize and they're able to patch things up. But if she didn't do that, how much worse would the situation have been? Because then the argument would have been over the small petty thing of like, why didn't you just do the one thing I asked? Why can't you just da 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 da, you know? And that is not going to patch anything up. It's not going to fix anything. It might make you feel a little better about the situation, but that does not mean that you have fixed the situation, by no means. So she struggles with pride in a different way. So chapter 7, this is the last chapter. It's going to be the hardest one. So if you were able to beat all the previous levels, this level will be the easiest level to get through. But if you failed on one or two levels, then this one level is going to get harder. It's going to become more difficult. Okay. We're going to take a minute before we read chapter 7, I'm going to go over here. I feel like there's something I need to read. So Rakuis says, okay, so it doesn't have to be this game, but I think it would be really cool if there was a game, maybe a part 2 or something, where there is a build-up of the male and female that struggle in trusting God for a significant other. Oh, trusting God for a significant other. I struggle with that a lot, but it would be like a situation where, people say, maybe he's not ready, but it shows how they are lonely and they go through the same struggles, but it shows God working to make them ready for each other. Interesting. Okay. Rakua, I love this idea. This is why I wanted to connect with people, with audience, and with consumers. This story. This story has escalated to so much. I'm gonna make that a footnote on my papers, on my notes. Okay. Rakua, I'm gonna go ahead and say I think that's a great idea. But the end they find each other. That would be kind of interesting. I 100% agree, Rakua. I think that's a great idea. Um, I'll probably do a part like a. I'm not gonna say probably. I don't want to promise anything. Um, I would like to do a second game, and if I do get to do a second game, I'm going to do this storyline. I think that sounds fascinating, or maybe a DLC. I'll toss it in as like two more levels or something. You know, not two more levels, but two more campaigns, storylines. That's really cool, Raku. I like that. That's really good. So now we're going to go over to chapter 7. This is the final chapter. And again, you guys, this is where the trigger warning is. It does contain some sensitive content such as depression and self exiting. Um, if you don't feel comfortable with this topic or you feel like it's inappropriate or not something you want to be around right now, go ahead and click off. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Just hit the notification bell so you guys know when I'm live next, and I'll see you guys next time. Love you guys. For you that are staying, I'm going to give them a couple minutes to back out if they want to try to avoid this subject. So I'm going to talk about this real quick. My wife, you guys know her as Perky Panda. She has created her own account where she creates crocheted magic basically, and it's fantastic. She is on Instagram and Facebook. If you're looking for a personalized crocheted item, go check her out. She's fantastic. Her stuff is really good quality, and she has never disappointed. She actually, hold on, I'm gonna come back to me for a minute. I know we did this earlier, but I'm gonna do this now. She actually created this patch. She made the whole patch herself. And I know it's kind of hard to see and it looks a little wonky. That's just because of lighting and the way I'm sitting. But overall, it's fantastic. So go check her out, you guys. She makes all kinds of stuff. She did a strawberry bag that she actually turned into a planter for another person. She's just now started making candy corn and pumpkins because it is that season. And she does strawberry bags, mushroom bags, different kinds of blankets. She's just started doing shawls. And to show how high quality this stuff is, that little butterfly, the pink one, she actually turned that. Uh, she actually gave that to our dog Bentley, and he has still not been able to tear it up. He loves that thing too. So, if you guys really want some high quality crocheted stuff and some of it personalized, go to her Instagram account at Hansel Handmade and just direct message her. She does some fantastic stuff and it's really affordable. So, yeah. And we are going to continue with this storyline. Chapter 7. I know I said I had some big news to drop. Um, I can do that now. I'll do it now. Because the people who are going to avoid the trigger warning, if they see this, then I can, they can avoid the trigger warning and all with this. So, last thing I say before the trigger warning. The big news about this is that in my classes, I am a student at Full Sail University for game development and computer science. I'm about to start taking coding, and I'm actually planning on teaching myself some coding to give myself a little bit of a head start. And in this previous class, they told us to create a goal and for something to strive for. And so my goal, I've decided, is that within 12 to 24 months, I want to have this game in production or posted on Steam. That's my big goal right now. And I need everybody to help me spread the word about this. Once I have some more pricing set out and more uh, ideas in stone, I'm gonna do a GoFundMe special event where I might do a live stream all day and talk about my games, and I'm gonna try and raise as much money as I can to get this game going and under production. So this game is probably the closest one I have to being able to be in production because I have the most details on it, and it will be the simplest when it comes to graphics. And the gameplay itself is going to be much like Castle Crashers. If you guys have ever played that game, go check it out. It's insane, it's crazy, it's gory, so be ready for that. It's super goofy. And so this is the game style that I want to make this game in, and I feel like it's really achievable. So that's my goal. Within 12 to 24 months, I plan on having this game in production or posted on Steam. And starting either this week, next week, or next month, I'm going to start teaching myself C++ coding so that I can learn how to do this stuff myself. And by then, I'll have a new laptop. And maybe I'll be able to sell this laptop and have enough money to actually build my computer. Then I can really kick things into gear, you know? So that's my big news, is that this game is on track to really start kicking up fast, you know? So that's the big news. And without further ado, Chapter 7, The Last Level. So, if you chose the boy storyline, this is where things start to get a little bit tough. I say tough. It's the last level. It's going to be the hardest one. The boy is still partners with his friend at this company because they're now co-owners of it. The friend has just been recognized for an award and is now being offered a position at a much larger company. So much higher pay, much higher reputation, stuff like that. And the boy becomes very envious of this because they are co-owners. And the boy was never actually recognized for this plan or this project. I'll go more into detail in the game itself. I'm just giving the tall overview of this storyline. So the boy becomes envious. He gets mad. He realizes this could be the end of the company if they split up because he knows that his friend is the smarter one. And so then he starts to struggle with, well, if he's gone, I'll be the only one who can actually accept this award and get the payment for this position. So then he starts struggling with the idea of murder. And so at the end of this, at this level, you start to go up against you start by going up against the nightmare Envy, which is going to be a very slim orange monster that moves slowly and tries to disarm you. The sister deals with Envy early, but you deal with Envy much later into the game. And so you go up against Envy, and then towards the end of the game, all of the nightmares decide to leave the room again, but they all come back out as spiders and overwhelming. They're all very low HP and very low damage, but there's just a lot of them, and it just feels like a lot. There's too much happening. You're being surrounded and overtaken. You can still tear them apart. You can still win this. There is a chance. But there's too much going on, too much happening. And then in from the other room where all the monsters are coming from is going to be one very tall and overarching creature that you can't describe very well. He's going to be very tall. He's going to be wearing a black robe and you can't see his face. And I want to design it so that it looks like he's also like as if he's also creeping in front of the camera and behind the camera. So kind of like kind of like that. You see him creeping in from both sides, basically. This monster, this nightmare, is overall probably going to be Satan. Because this will be the embodiment of all the sins encroaching on your character, practically suffocating them to doing something drastic and wholly against God. And so then the boy now has to struggle with the idea of, if I get rid of my friend, I'm the one who's successful in life. So now, the things that the boy has really struggled with all from the beginning, which is pride and envy, are now suddenly overwhelming him. And that's what this final boss, this final monster is going to sound like. Okay. I'm going to go over the girl's final boss, and then we'll come to comments here in a minute. So the girl, after another big argument with her husband, she leaves and she goes to a bar where she meets a guy, a good looking guy. And this is where her kind of penultimate moment comes into play. She falls into lust, and she then struggles with, do I just want to feel good? Do I just want to be happy? Because one night without him knowing wouldn't ruin anything, you know? And so this is her moment in the game where she deals with lust. In the levels, she comes into play, she starts fighting. But then, same thing. I'm going to have it so all the monsters shrink down, become like spiders, and then they all rush your character. And then comes that overarching, very tall, very dark creature, which is the final boss of the game. And this, I'm still debating on if this is the moment whenever she gets away. Like maybe she beats lust and she gets away from it, but now she's struggling with the idea that she almost did that. And then the body imagery comes into play, and then the self deprivation comes into play. And maybe this final monster, this Satan, is the ultimate temptation of self exiting, is what I'm thinking. And so for the for the boy, it's murder. For the girl, it's self exiting. And it really shows that their emotions, or that their seven deadly sins that plague them in life, it haunts them to the end of life. So the boy who struggles with pride and with envy, what is the ultimate goal with that? Somebody's going to get hurt, but it's not going to be him. He's going to be very headstrong, very targeted. He wants to get ahead in life. He wants to be on top and the victor. And then the girl, a lot of her problems were, I think it was lust and greed. What did I write down for her? Sorry, the boy is wrath and pride, and the girl was lust and envy. And so it shows how the sins play. Wrath and pride are presented outwardly, and so somebody else is going to get hurt with the wrath and pride. Lust and envy is damage dealt to self and closest to you. So she's going to be the one who gets hurt the most in this scenario. So the boy, sorry, back to the girl. She struggles with this, but if you beat the monster, good outcome is she says no, and she calls her husband to come pick her up because she's had too much to drink. And when he gets there, she explains everything she was going to do, and then he gets her with a psychologist, and they go home, and kind of a happily ever after sort of thing. Not technically or literally, because, you know, that's stuff they're still going to struggle with for the rest of their life. It's hard to move on from stuff like that. So Then for the boy, he is going to be struggling with the idea of murder. So he runs to the church and he goes to talk with the pastor, and that's his big ending, is that he's just sobbing and running to the pastor. So that's a good ending for the boy. So I'm gonna come over here to comments real quick. Okay. Thank you, Kirsty Jane. That is Perky Panda for those of you who don't know. Rakua says that's awesome. I'm legit so excited for this game. I'm glad. I'm really happy. I want these games to be inspiring and exciting for people, you know? And then you said, okay, I'm happy you're going over through every sin. Because envy, I struggle so much with it. Damaged relationship from it. We built it up again though. But this game will be so, so amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I don't plan on the game having amazing or fantastic fight scenes, but I want the storyline, psychology, and end game purpose to be the main things that stick out with this game. And so, with having the links to the psychologists at the end and having a biblical narrative follow with all of the major sins of humanity, I really feel like with that and storyline, no matter how bad uh, my coding might be, the storyline will be what carries it. I just want basic combat. I know it's not gonna be fantastic, but it's not about the fighting. It's not about the combat. It's about the remedy and the biblical message in this story. I hope I can deliver on good combat, good storyline, but overall, I mean, it all comes down to how hard am I going to work on this game? And I plan on working real hard in this game. So we'll see what happens. So, with that said, we'll come back up to mechanics real quick. I know the stream is usually till 9, but I think this might be till 9:30. And then if you guys need to head out, go ahead. Love you guys. Hit the thumbs up, hit the thumbs down. If you hit thumbs down, at least leave a comment telling me why. That way I can figure out how to make things better. And so, um, next stream, we're going to go back to doing some gaming. And so at the end of every month, we're going to have one stream where we just hang out and we just game. That's all it's going to be. But throughout the month, we're going to just be talking about gameplay and game mechanics and storyline ideas. And I want to hear y'all's opinions. One day we'll have a day where it's just brainstorming. I just want to hear what you guys have to say. I want to stay connected with you guys. I need you guys to spread the word too. There's only so much I can do, but if I can get interconnected with a lot of people, then that can make my games so good, so much better. So, with that said, we'll go ahead and move on towards game mechanic and passive abilities in this game. So, one of the passive abilities I have in this game are going to be related to the armor of God. If you don't know what that is, go look up Ephesians chapter 6 and verses 13 through 21? 13 through 17, sorry. Um, they're fantastic. They really apply to real life. And it's cool because you can definitely tell that Paul used the Roman armor whenever he was describing the armor of God. Because everything that they did with the Roman equipment was easily applied to the biblical armor. All right. Sounds good, Rakua. Love you, sister. Glad you got to watch. Spread the word. Spread the word. So, with the armor of God, that'll kind of be the game's passive abilities. Shoes of the gospel, I'm planning on them adding a speed increase. So your character actually will become about 2 times faster. I don't know about 2 times faster. Maybe, the classic 1.50 times faster. And then Belt of Truth, that will increase. Let me see. I wrote that down somewhere. Sorry. I believe I wrote down Belt of Truth as a damage reduction. Yeah, it's a damage reduction with I think it's 50% damage reduction. And then Shield of Faith, you will get that. Acquire that at level 3, I think. Or it's different depending on if you choose boy or girl. And so the Shield of Faith, you apply that and it creates, whenever you activate it, it blocks all incoming damage and causes a knockback effect. And then Helmet of Salvation decreases all damage. Oh, my background. Sorry about that. Helmet of Salvation is going to decrease. So far, it's going to be decreases incoming damage by 25%. I'll probably rework a lot of this once I have the actual game built. We'll see. And then on the very last level, on level 7, whenever you go up against the dark evil boss, Satan basically, you get the Sword of the Spirit. And that will be a new weapon, and it will be kind of an overpowered weapon. It boosts all of your special abilities, your specials. Well, what are the special abilities, you ask? That's a great question. Let's get into that. So special abilities will come with each level. You'll unlock 2 different special abilities. So by the time you finish level 3, you have all the different special abilities. I might add more later. I might change the way that happens later. So we'll see what happens. The first ability is going to be Wave Slash, and that the animation will change depending on what weapon you're using. Basically, you slash, and it will create a wave that deals damage that continues towards the end of the screen. Supercharge your weapon. You kind of just hold it back for a while and then hit somebody really hard. Deals double damage. Flurry of Blows. Sorry about that. It's an attack that hits in all directions that also causes a slight knockback effect. And Flechette, which is going to be kind of a shotgun effect. It splits up your heavy attack damage and spreads it out in front of you in 3 different directions. If you're already ranged, if you're using the bow and arrow, it's going to make it a multi-attack. So they shoot their bow and arrow at like 5 different targets. The other angel abilities are Healing Knee, where you'll recover 75% of your health back. And then the final one is Rebuking, which is a damage reflection. You actually redirect all incoming damage within that 1 second back to the person that attacked it. And they take 50% of the damage that they were going to deal to you. And then right now, that's the special abilities that you can have. You can pick up to 3 to take into battle with you. And then the different angel weapons you can have. You start off with the hammer, which is the basic weapon. It's got a basic attack, a heavy attack, which deals double damage, but it's a slower strike. Ground slam, which deals kind of a radius attack, but not a lot. But it can cause a slight knockback effect. And then spinning attack. Sorry, I got those mixed up. Ground slam, it hits straight down, causes a radial effect, and hits different characters around you. Spinning attack, you spin and you can cause a knockback effect against the enemies in front and behind you. And then bow and arrow, it's the basic attack. Bow and arrow has a basic attack where it's ranged. It can deal pretty good damage. I'm thinking about 25% less damage than a melee weapon though, because you can reach basically across the map. A heavy attack where your character pulls 2 arrows and then shoots them at the same time. And then a close range kick, which causes a knockback effect on all enemies in front of you. And then rain attack, which is where they jump up and they will shoot a large area in front of them. Just kind of like pull out lots of arrows and shoot while they're midair. And then the last weapon is the spear will be the weapon you get after that. It has a basic attack, heavy attack, but the thing that makes it special is it has reach. It can reach farther than the basic weapon. And it has a bleed effect where you can actually cause monsters to bleed while they're trying to chase you. It will have a 3 target piercing throw where you take the spear and you throw it, and it can hit up to 3 enemies at the same time and stun them. Or not stun them, sorry. Slow them down. And then the chain weapon, which, if you don't know what this is, it's called a meteor hammer. It's a very cool weapon. I really want to implement it. I don't know how the animation's going to go. I feel like I'm going to need to hire somebody to do this animation because it's going to be rather intricate being a chain weapon. Has a basic attack where you just swing, a heavy attack where they do kind of a special kickflip and it launches it forward, a knockout, which is where it's going to be able to stun an enemy in front and behind him. And he's not going to have a fourth ability, but that's because the weapon can attack forward and backward at the same time, effectively hitting two targets at the same time. So that's kind of the Angel's main weapons as well. Let me see here. Yeah. So there's not going to be a huge change. I might add customizations to your Angel. I don't know. I'm not planning on doing a whole lot of customization, so to speak. At least not for this. If I do DLCs of like other kids and you play as Oatmeal or Rachel for them, then maybe I'll add more customizations in a different way. So, that being said, I think that's about everything for the game. I think so. So, the outlying storyline is two angels who have been sent by God to kind of take over, or embody, sorry, they embody these teddy bears and they protect the kids from the nightmares, which are the seven deadly sins. And depending on what the kid interacts with in the day, is what nightmares are will be. And it will be two. Like, there is an option for 2-player, and it's going to be kind of a swarm style. So monsters coming in from both sides, and if you die, I'm planning on getting like 3 lives probably, classic style. And every now and then one of the monsters drops a heart. Like there's a 10% chance they drop a heart or something. And you can play with another player or you can play it solo. It's going to be Castle Crasher themed in that style of gameplay. But overall, it's going to be its own thing. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. I've thought about these games for a while now, and I would love to be able to make these for you guys. I'd love to be able to create these stories, and I really hope I can succeed and continue with this goal of being able to make this company. I don't know. I'd love to be able to make this company. I feel like I could really use it to the glory of God in creating a good quality gaming company. So we'll see. I don't know. I would love to. That's the goal. That's the prayer. Speaking of prayers, we are going to go ahead and start winding down because it is about time to be done. If you got any prayer requests, put them in the comment section. If you don't want to talk about it but still would like prayer, just go ahead and type in unspoken prayer requests, and I got you. We got you. So, love you guys. I'm going to go ahead and exit out, but I'm still going to monitor the comment section until we have hit an hour and 30 minutes, so about 7 more minutes. I'll shut it down in about 5 minutes. So, love you guys. Stay grumpy. This is Grumpy Grizz heading out.